Okay, let's talk about a number you've probably been hearing a lot about, especially if you're in Chennai, India. 10,000 crore rupees. It's a massive, almost unbelievable figure tied to a new investment by Blackstone, a global finance giant. But behind that huge number is a fascinating story about concrete, capital, and some really big questions. So let's break it all down.
So, what in the world does 10,000 crore rupees, we're talking well over a billion US dollars, actually build? It's so easy to get lost in all those zeros, but this isn't just an abstract number on a spreadsheet. This money is physically reshaping parts of a city. Let's see exactly what that looks like.
All right, so first up, let's look at the actual physical things this investment is creating. We're literally talking about Chennai's new concrete giants. And as you're about to see, they come in two very different and pretty telling forms. And here's where it gets really interesting. The investment is split in a very telling way. On one hand, you've got these huge industrial parks out in Sri Perumbudur. We're talking 154 acres for logistics and warehousing. But on the other hand, in Ambattur, you have a much smaller 16-acre plot that's swallowing the lion's share of the cash. And that is for a massive hyperscale data center, the physical backbone of our entire digital world. Yeah, let's just let that number sink in for a second. 10,000 crore rupees. This isn't just another big project. This is a huge statement, a massive bet on where the future is headed. Almost all of this capital is flowing into building the physical home for our digital lives. So where are we with all this right now? Well, the data center project is really just getting its boots on the ground. Think land acquisition, early construction phases. The industrial parks, they're a bit further along, with the first phase expected to be done around late 2027. But that full data center campus, that's the long game, probably not fully built out until later this decade. Okay, so a project this massive doesn't just appear out of nowhere, right? To really get how this all works, we need to pull back the curtain and look at the whole network of players, the global giants and the local experts who are making it all happen. And what you see here is a pretty classic playbook. At the top of the food chain, you have the Blackstone Group from the US. They're the ones with the deep pockets, the main financier. For the data center, they're working through their own special unit, Lumina Cloud Infra. But here's the key. They aren't doing it alone. They're partnering with Indian developers who know the lay of the land, like the Casagran Group for the parks and the Berry Group for the data center. And this is a really important thing to understand. This isn't the private fortune of some billionaire family. Nope, this is what the finance world calls institutional capital. The money that Blackstone is investing is actually pooled from enormous funds from all over the globe. We're talking about pension funds, insurance companies, things like that. Blackstone is just the manager, the one who directs this massive global river of cash. But wait a minute, how does a massive foreign company just waltz in and get a green light for something this big? For that, we gotta zoom out again and look at the government frameworks that are basically designed to let this kind of foreign investment flow in as smoothly as possible. It basically boils down to a 1-2 punch of approvals. First, at the national level, India's Foreign Direct Investment Policy, or FDI, is key. For data centers, it allows 100% foreign ownership through what they call the automatic route. That's a fancy way of saying they don't need to ask for special permission, they just have to tell the central bank they're doing it. Then, at the state level, Tamil Nadu rolls out the red carpet with its own data center policy, offering things like fast-track permissions and support. So you have to ask, why are governments so eager to say yes? Well, from their point of view, it's kind of a no-brainer. It brings in huge amounts of foreign cash, it creates jobs in both construction and high-tech IT, it seriously beefs up the country's digital infrastructure, it's going to generate a ton of tax revenue, and it lines up perfectly with big national goals like Digital India. For a government, it's a win-win-win. All right, we've seen the buildings, we've met the players, we've looked at the government approvals. But now we get to the real heart of it. Where does all this money actually come from, and how does this global money machine really work? The business model for a firm like Blackstone is, honestly, brilliant. They make money in two main ways. First, they charge a management fee, usually around 2% of all the money they're looking after. That's their guaranteed paycheck, right? They get that every year, whether their investments do well or not. But second, and this is the big one, is the performance fee. If an investment is a huge success, they take a big slice of the profits, often around 20%. It's a perfect, low-risk, high-reward setup for them. And the secret ingredient to this whole recipe is something Wall Street loves to call OPM, other people's money. Remember those pension funds and insurance companies we talked about? That's OPM. Blackstone isn't primarily risking its own money here. It's using these gigantic collective pools of capital to make bets and generate returns. And for doing that, it gets paid very, very handsomely. And this is where our explainer has to pivot. Because when you have a machine this powerful, this efficient, this good at making money, the source material we're looking at forces us to ask a really tough, uncomfortable question. What about the people? The source we're drawing from for this explainer puts it in very stark terms. A firm like this isn't good, it isn't evil. Quote, it is a money machine. Nothing more, nothing less. Its entire reason for being, its only real goal, is to generate financial returns. It's not designed to solve social problems.
And this creates a really dangerous dynamic, which the source sums up with a chillingly simple phrase: distance kills empathy. When financial decisions that affect thousands of lives are made in a boardroom halfway across the world, based on spreadsheets and data points, the human consequences, they can become abstract, just a number in an equation.
You end up with two completely different ways of seeing the world, two different languages. On one side, you have the language of business. It's all about spreadsheets, efficiency, market impact, and data. But on the other side, you have the human truth: faces, suffering, job loss, dignity. The argument is that the first language is often used to ignore or even justify the costs of the second.
And this all leads to a really critical argument that the source makes. In this global system, legality is very often used as a substitute for morality. The thinking goes, if an action is legal, if it's been approved by the government, if it follows all the regulations, then it's okay. It's considered acceptable, even if it might result in real human harm.
And so, we're left with this, a question that this whole system puts right at our feet. When what is perfectly legal and what feels morally right start to drift apart and point in completely different directions, what do we use as our compass?